This is the exciting reality that awaits us. You got to demand it, though. The P-11 is 10-foot diameter, 2 meters, flying in Warminster, England, 1969. Mr. Searle expects to offer day trips to the moon, and he's serious. It's going to happen. Right now. I think the battery's dead on this thing. Whoops, there we go. Now, there's a photo of a P-11 taken from the P-12, about a half mile up in Warminster. Let's see. Go through these. I'm running out of time. There's a graphic by our graphics department. There's an IGV, Starship Ezekiel, Starship Explorer. And these are true starships. Since they have no inertia, anything attached to the SEG and the SEG at flight voltage, they will have no inertia. You keep putting a load on the SEG through a load cell, which is in each of these 64 flight cells. Now, you normally don't need anything in the body to open up, but the FAA says, well, you have to have a power-out glide system in case the motor stops, in case the motor packs up. But it doesn't pack up, it doesn't stop. Keeps going. So these will control in a power-out glide situation. When they're activated, the flight cells open up, flip 90 degrees to the plane of the body in the SEG, and fires through a solenoid a hard rubber pin at the SEG through a hole in the SEG housing. That causes the whole system to flip at 90 degrees. Or actually, not 90 degrees, at about 7.5 degrees. The flight cells open up 90 degrees from 0 degrees. And if that is maintained, the craft will fly off rapidly in the direction of the tilt. It's the cold flame barrier and rim discharge pins. The load cell is directed to the rim discharge pins normally to put the craft in a superconducting state by putting a load on the atmosphere or the surrounding space. And the more load you put on it, on the SEG, the colder and faster it gets. And eventually at 4 Kelvin, the SEG and anything attached to it will lose all inertia and be repelled by the Earth. And because of that repulsion, under flight voltage, it can't crash. It gets close to a building or close to the ground, it just is repelled. And that's what the experiments show. Now, there is a film clip of the P-11 and Professor Searle first standing, then kneeling. That's about 10 foot, 2 meters diameter, flying behind him. Notice, first it's tilted down. When the flight cells are opened up on this side, there's the flight cells, and then they're opened up on the other side, and the craft flies off in the other direction to maintain a stable hover behind Professor Searle. So that's about 6 frames shot in rapid succession. It's the closest thing we have to surviving films. BBC took reams and reams. BBC One, a film of the craft and the work of the Searle National Space Research Consortium, or SNSRC. And first in the 1990s, when interest reawakened in the work, they said, well, we want outrageous amounts of money for it. Now they won't even admit that they did films, and that insults a lot of people that remember these films that were broadcast on BBC One in England. And there's the P-11 behind Professor Searle, the sun shining through some open flight cells. Flying over the Golden Gate Bridge. So, also, if the flight cells are open, this section, or wherever the flight cells are open, reverses polarity. Normally, they're negative. They go positive. And as we know from electrodynamics, this will fly off if this is positive in this direction, while the rest of this is negative. That's subquantum kinetics and electrogravity. There's a non-returnable model with SEG inside. Back in the day, neodymium was very inexpensive, and all the other materials. Costs have risen dramatically, and every day that goes by, costs go up. There's the SEG. Professor Searle, the man who saved tomorrow, he's still alive, still working. You can't talk to Thomas Townsend Brown. You can't talk to Otis T. Carr. You can't talk to Nikola Tesla. But you can talk to Professor John Searle. He's in England right now, working very hard. Make sure we have this. Before, would you like to breathe this air and drink this water? Or would you like this? We can have it. Talk to me. Talk to Professor Searle. There's the SEG, your typical flying saucer. Form follows function. If you want to have a device that utilizes artificial gravity and electromagnetic fields for propulsion, this is the shape that's the easiest to make it work. And we see that again and again. There it is, in orbit around Mars. Now, because electrodynamic craft have no inertia, they're immune to the Einsteinian light barrier, and they fulfill all the requirements for the Alcubierre warp bubble. So, this is warp drive. This can easily exceed the speed of light. Professor Searle says it can go right up to the speed of light. But since you don't get heavier, and the craft doesn't get heavier, the faster it goes, it should be as immune to the speed of light as Chuck Yeager in October 1947 with his Bell X-1 rocket plane was immune to the speed of sound. Look at the equations, they look the same. For exceeding the light barriers, exceeding the sound barrier. This is a gift to mankind from men like Nikola Tesla, who first came up with this concept over 100 years ago, and Otis T. Carr, and of course Professor John Searle, Mark Tumian. Thanks, guys. Thanks for all your work, all your hard work. There's the IGB logo still, Aerospace Inc. That's my domain. We're going to have a better tomorrow for all right now. I'm going to try to go fast. In loving memory of Nikola Tesla, Mark Tumian, James Howard, Mary Macaluso, BCC, all of the dearly departed advocates of human sustainability. Special thanks to Professor John R. Searle, my boss, Team Searle, Bradley Lockerman Films, SDKM, Ryan H., Kevin Balmer, Daniel and Erica Nunez, Jason, Mark Petrie, Tesla Science Foundation, AmericanAntiGravity.com, and you, the builders and supporters of this movement. Now, if we could go to the film. I don't want to kill the lights. Which came out in 2009, Brad Lockerman Films. Go online, johnsearlestory.com, and you can order and download it. This is a 12-minute excerpt.
It's a device that converts the energy around you, that's everywhere, into useful energy, what we call electricity.
The generator is a magnetic device that is totally magnetic. It is its own prime mover. It will self-start and continue to run, and as far as we know, we can say never stop.
We have something here that needs to be investigated, and really that's my role. I am a technical investigator of the SEG.
The generator is approximately 2 foot in diameter by about 8 inches high, and it can be put in the home to power your home. It can be put in your automobile to power your automobile.
The government said they know about it, but they think it's a novelty.
Many of the third world countries have no means of generating electricity. These units could be put in there and power whole communities.
You really have to take a look at each individual component and function. And when you step back, you say, wow, this thing works. There's too much for it there's too many facets involved not to be something viable.
I felt that these big generators at the power stations were a waste of money. Would present to us vast pollution problems in the future. So the whole idea was to get something simple, not difficult to produce, and produce electricity.
With a series of coils attached to it, you can supply a home or an automobile or any device you want that runs on electricity at any voltage or power that you require. This particular device actually emits electrons. It does so through an exchange from a rare earth to lighter elements as it goes out. It's also amplified, and as it comes out, you have a tremendous abundance of electrons which are actually pumping into the coils instead of just bumping them forward a notch as a conventional generator would do. The primary component is a rare earth, and it can be, although it can be any of the rare earths, the component that we use is neodymium. That's element number 60 on the periodic chart. And that unit puts out an excess of electrons for some reason, and it will also replenish them very easily.
While I've been playing with this, with equipment, I've uncovered a lot of things which I suspected but couldn't prove. Clearly, the magnetic field was completely different to the magnetic fields we knew of. We got fields at right angles. That's why the whole thing moves. If you haven't got two fields, it won't move.
As the roller moves, they provoke electrons to migrate from the neodymium to the various layers.
So we know that the magnetic field can be set to perform functions.
The electron flow is accelerated to an extremely high rate, and it creates a vacuum around the device. And in that vacuum, you develop numbing cold. And numbing cold, as we know today, is a function of superconductivity. It also, which has not been known, a function of gravitational force.
The three-piece of craft which we've been asked to do, it will be a 90-foot diameter vehicle.
Here we had something we couldn't understand. It wasn't doing what I wanted. That's what a generator wanted.
It will dive down in temperature at one point if you build it correctly and actually levitate and actually lift off the Earth, developing its own gravitational field.
This thing wanted to fly. So to me then, the easiest thing was to work on the body. Let it fly. And we toyed with this down in Warminster, where we built these, what was labelled UFOs. We called them levity discs. But we built this. Now, 13 old-age men backed that project, and they only backed me on the following condition, that I did not go commercial with this. They didn't want any problems with taxman. They were doing this for fun. But to me, that was all right. That was giving me a chance to experiment.
We've had at least 41 flight vehicles to date, yes, they've been tested, and the offer we're now making, we are guaranteeing will fly.
Weigh roughly 90 pounds on the seating.
And made it quite clear to them it was not a UFO. The government knows. It's identified. They know what it is. Every government knows what it is. They've known it for years. Here, behind me, you see an illustration of something similar to the effects that are happening around the solar effect generator. This energy is all around us. It is like this battery. We have electrons pulled to one end so that we can make them flow in a particular manner. If we take a plate and we make our roller like the battery,